In today's financial landscape, there's a persistent narrative that everything is going well with the U.S. economy. But I want to be clear from the start. There's more to the story than what we're being told. The purpose of this article is not to offer advice or suggestions, but rather to inform you about the situation and the underlying dynamics at play. The information here will set the foundation for understanding why policymakers and central bankers are making certain decisions, allowing you to better navigate the economic landscape. The Federal Reserve's stance. A strong economy? The Federal Reserve consistently claims that the U.S. economy is strong, the labor market is solid, and inflation is on track to return to the desired 2% level. Here's a quote directly from the Federal Reserve, captured in a video statement just 2 days ago. Our economy is strong overall and has made significant progress over the past 2 years toward achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices. Labor market conditions are solid, having cooled from their previously overheated state. Inflation has eased, and my colleagues and I have greater confidence that it is on a sustainable path back to 2%. The language is clear. The Fed wants us to believe that the economic situation is under control. But the question we need to ask is this really the case? Let's dive deeper. The revision game. Is data being manipulated? The government frequently releases economic data, but also revise this data. These revisions sometimes dramatically change the narrative of what's happening in the economy. A recent revision to consumer data is a prime example. According to the new data, Americans have been earning more and saving more than previously reported. Yes, you read that right. They revised the numbers, and suddenly, we are all supposedly richer than we thought. Here's the official statement. It has looked as though consumers were spending more than their income. We see disposable personal income now being estimated up, so that's no longer the case. We had income revised upward, spending revised upward, but income was revised upward so much more so than spending that the savings rate also came up. This revised data suggests that people have more savings than initially thought, which supports the narrative that consumer spending can continue at healthy levels. But does this revision accurately reflect reality? Or is it simply a convenient adjustment to paint a rosier picture of the economy? GDP growth revisions. A stronger economy or creative accounting? Another recent revision concerns the gross domestic product, GDP data, for the second quarter of 2024. Initially, the government reported modest growth, but after revising the figures, they concluded that the economy was stronger than previously believed. When asked whether this revision made him feel more secure about the economy's resilience against a possible recession, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell responded affirmatively. He acknowledged that upward revisions to GDP provide a sense of security, implying that the worst economic outcomes may be avoided. Here's his take on the matter. GDP was revised upward somewhat, and when there's strength in the economy like that, it gives you more of a sense of security, especially when you're also seeing a cooling labor market. It suggests that maybe the worst-case scenarios won't play out. So, based on revised data, we are expected to believe that the economy is stronger than initially thought. But again, we must ask, is this strength real, or are the numbers being massaged to fit a specific narrative? Interest rates. The Federal Reserve's next move. One of the most closely watched decisions by the Federal Reserve is the direction of interest rates. Recently, Powell hinted that interest rates would continue to decline, but at a slower pace than many might expect. He emphasized that the Fed is in no hurry to cut rates quickly and will rely on incoming data to guide their decisions. This is not a committee that feels like it's in a rush to cut rates quickly. We will be guided by the data. If the economy slows more than expected, we can cut faster. If it slows less, we can cut slower. Ultimately, the speed at which we cut rates will depend on the data. This measured approach suggests that the Fed is treading carefully, trying to balance the need to stimulate the economy with the risk of cutting rates too quickly. But if the data they're relying on is flawed or revised to fit a certain narrative, what does that say about the decisions being made? Upcoming Federal Reserve meetings. What's next? The Federal Reserve is set to meet again in November, and Powell has made it clear that the decisions made during that meeting will depend heavily on the latest data, specifically 2 employment reports and 1 inflation report. Powell explained it this way: "We have 2 employment reports and an inflation report coming in before the next meeting. The main thing will be to assess whether our policy stance is in the right place to achieve our goals. We don't have that data yet, so we'll need to see the totality of the data when the time comes." This wait-and-see approach suggests that the Federal Reserve is not committing to any specific course of action until they have more information. However, the reliance on potentially manipulated or revised data raises concerns about the validity of these decisions. The bigger picture. Cooked data and misdirection. Now here's my take on the entire situation. It's a mess, and that's putting it lightly. The Federal Reserve and other government agencies are making decisions based on data that is continually being revised. And when that data's cooked, how can we trust the decisions being made? It's not just a question of whether the data is being manipulated, it's a question of how much. Some would argue that the books are being cooked to present a better than accurate picture of the economy. Others might say it's just a necessary adjustment to account for new information. But either way, it leaves us in a precarious position. The road ahead. Stay informed. As the Federal Reserve continues to make decisions based on ever-changing data, it's crucial that you stay informed. This is just the beginning of a broader discussion about the economy, central banking policies, and the potential impact on your financial well-being. In future discussions, I will continue to provide insights into these complex issues, helping you make informed decisions about your finances. By understanding the games being played with the data, you can position yourself to either benefit from the situation or at least avoid falling behind. Thank you for taking the time to read, and I encourage you to stay tuned for future updates. Together, we can navigate the murky waters of today's economic climate. Stay informed, stay alert, and don't be misled by the headlines.